Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for your time. Um, so today we're gonna do. The presentation is about hyper prolific cells and how do we manage our litters to make sure that we get we keep the piglets alive. The genetic potential is there, but what do we do from a management point of view to make sure that we have good results? So I'm Jan Swart. I work for Damred Africa. We're a pig genetics company based in South Africa. And joining me is my colleague Carl Kraus, and he is also with technical services. So he is also joining us. So I'm going to start the session. If you have any questions or you have anything that you want to ask, please feel free to stop me. Then we can discuss it. If you don't have the questions now, you're more than welcome to send it through to Victor, or you can send it through to me, and then we can take it from there. So, management strategies for large litters with less mortalities. To start up, at the end of the day, pig producers wish to remain sustainable, competitive, and profitable. And the modern pig producer today has a very high expectation of what they want to achieve with the genetics and what they want to see on the farm. So we must produce more from less, and that is the Damred advantage. So first of all, why I'm starting with our products is to say, what does Damred have to offer? What do we breed for to achieve the larger litters, and what do we do to keep the mortalities down out of a genetics point of view? And second, and then lastly would be, how do we do it on farm with the management strategy? So what Damred does, we have a simplified three-way breeding system where we take the Damred Yorkshire, cross it with the Damred Landrace. So this is our what we call so this is what we call our nucleus herd, and when we cross these breeds, we produce our hybrids. This is our multiplication part, and then where we breed our hybrid with the Deerhoek is our commercial side of the business, and that is how we then breed slaughter pigs for meat. So, just we use the Yorkshire and the Landrace for the mothering abilities, and we use the Deerhoek, which is our terminal sire, for our meat quality, our growth, our carcass quality. So, genetics is only one component of successful pig production. You have nutrition, environment, health, and management. So, I'm going to touch on the genetic side and then a little bit on the middle three, and then management is in your own farm. So, the role of Damred, what is coming and what is the new breeding goals of Damred, and how do we improve it over generations? So, Damred has three categories where we divide our breeding goals into: it's robustness, productivity, and reproduction. You will see for all three pure breeds that we do, we're focusing a lot less on litter sizes, on the reproduction, and we moved a lot of focus to robustness, specifically piglet survival which is from the sow effect as well as the piglet effect, and also the litter weight gain. This is other breeding goals, but today we're focusing on the robustness side. So you can see for the Landrace and the Yorkshire, how the breeding goals has changed over time. To say we came from productivity, which is for growth and meat quality, or let's say growth, and then here we're focusing a lot more on robustness on the Yorkshire and the Landrace. And then for the Damred Deerhoek, you can see we swapped it around quite a lot in terms of breeding a lot more for robustness and less for meat quality and growth and feed conversion. So one thing that Damred, one of the breeding goals that they had was survival until 5 days, live piglets at 5 days. And what that was a breeding goal to say, if we can get a piglet to survive and be alive at 5 days of age, the probability of this pig surviving is very high. And that is because they're very fragile in the beginning and more susceptible to dying because they're small or whatever the reason might be. But Damrit has split it into three different parts, which I said is the sow effect. So litter sizes plays a role in this, and also the piglet survival from the sow effect, meaning how good is her milk and what's her mothering abilities to raise that piglet. And then as well the piglet survival, which comes from the piglet itself. Even though you must remember, as soon as you have bigger litters, you will also have smaller piglets at birth. But just because the piglet is small doesn't mean the piglet is weak. It's still a livable piglet. So this is to show you how Damrit, how they the survival rate of the three different breeds has changed over time. To say how more piglets are starting to survive as they focus a lot more on the survival rate and robustness of the piglets. Then the sow's ability to take care of the piglets it's split up to say she must take care of many piglets because the litters are larger. She should take care of her own piglets as far as possible, and the weight gain in the litter is also important. So 2025 last year, litter weight gain was a trait that was added to the breeding goals. And we expecting an annual breeding progress of 3 kilograms litter weight gain and more or less a half a piglet extra weaned per weaning per sow. So to give you an idea how we work it out is, litter weight gain is calculated when our first parity sow farrows. That we then do litter equalization and we have a start date. It's the same number of piglets, it's the same age piglets, and also the same breed. Then, when we wean the sow at 21 days, because why we use 21 days is because there are certain sows that sometimes get weaned earlier because we need to make space in the farrowing house or whatever the reason might be, and that's why we use 21 days. Then we take the 21-day weight of the litter, minus it by the starting weight, and that is our litter weight gain. That is the growth of the piglets. So that is what we do from a Damrit point of view. So what's the answer from a management point of view and on-farm solutions? So managing these sows are less about pushing output further and more about preventing the losses. Mortalities are because of non-viable piglets that starve, crushing. So normally crushing occurs when the piglets are cold and they go and look for heat under the sow. And so at the end of the day, the strategy is to match the piglet demand with the sow's capacity to raise these piglets, especially in the early stages of life. The whole Damrit system is built around managing small, vulnerable piglets and not just maximizing the numbers. Because, like I said, the genetics is there to get the bigger litters and to raise these or to have these piglets, but how do we keep them alive? And you will see later on, I touch on a point to say that just because I have a good born alive doesn't mean I'm a good farmer. Having a good number of piglets that are weaned, that is a good indication of being a good farmer. So let's start with pre-farrowing preparation. First of all, body condition is very important. It's to keep the cells at the optimal condition and feed them accordingly during their gestation. So you want to target between a 12 to 15 millimeter back fat at weaning, meaning she has to go in between a 14 to a 16 back fat. She will lose about 2 millimeters of back fat during the lactation phase. When a sow is too thin, she will have poor milk and future fertility loss because during the lactation period is when she produces eggs for the next litter. And then if she's too fat, she might have farrowing problems. And the whole Damrit system is very data driven. What is my back fat? Back fat determines how I will feed her. If I feed her correctly, she will be in the right condition, so I won't lose I won't have a too thin or too fat sow, and also taking a note of what my feed intake is during the lactation period to make sure that I don't have a sow that doesn't or that loses too much body condition below this 12 to 14 millimeters. Otherwise, she won't be ready for service after she's weaned. And when I mate a sow, let's call it a gilt or a sow if I mate her. After mating, we normally take the body condition, the back fat, and based on that, we have different feed curves that we feed them on to make sure that they come in the right condition when they go into the farrowing houses. But we have dam breed manuals, and there you can go and have a look at that and exactly how that works. Then farrowing supervision. Attended farrowings reduce stillbirths and allow early interventions. To give you an example, I sat with a customer in Zimbabwe one day, and they told me, but to get extra labor, the dam breed sow has bigger litters, so it takes more management. And the lady told me, but if I have to employ more people, my cost of production would become more. I said, okay, I understand that. But let's say you have 1 or 2 piglets per litter that you can wean more because you have someone employed to work in your farrowing house. It means that if you have 5 sows, it means it's 10 piglets per litter, or let's say 2 piglets. No, let me rephrase it. If I have 1 piglet per litter, it gives me 2.35 piglets per sow per year extra. If you take that with the number of sows you have and your profit that you make from a pig, then you will start seeing that these calculations start making sense. Then a transition diet is when we move to a more high fiber diet, preferring to reduce constipation and improve the farrowing ease. And then third or fourth is the minerals and vitamins. So adequate calcium and antioxidants levels help reduce stillbirths. And then dam breed has a very aggressive feed curve, especially in the farrowing houses. So there's daily increases. Do 3 to 4 feedings per day to help increase intake. So I feed the sow less at a time. So I keep my feed a lot more fresh, and make sure that you have fresh drinking water, because a sow at peak milking can drink 25 to 50 liters per day. And then key rules for dam breed is feed intake equals to litter growth and survival. So if my sow doesn't eat, she doesn't produce milk, my piglets don't grow, and if the piglets starve or they don't grow, they're gonna die. And you get to a peak lactation feed intake at around day 16, and then you're gonna feed around half a kilogram extra feed per piglet. But I'm just touching on this as it's not a feeding meeting that we're having. And then sows nursing 14 piglets may need up to 9 kilograms of feed per day. Keep in mind that this is based on a specific nutritional requirement. If you have a feed that is of higher spec to give you the same amount of nutritional value, so a higher feed will mean that you might be able to feed 8 kilograms of feed per day. If you have a lower spec diet, you might feed 10 kilograms per day. So it all depends on what type of feed you feed and how do you formulate your diets. Then farrowing management is shortening your farrowing duration. Long farrowings increase stillbirths and weaker piglets. Assist when necessary. This is always keep it hygienic and make sure that you keep it to a minimum. Don't intervene with the sow if it's not needed. And then dry and warm piglets immediately. Hypothermia is a major killer, especially in the smaller piglets. Remember, if a piglet is not warm, the piglet won't have the right energy to go to the udder to go and suckle to get colostrum in the first 12 to 24 hours from the sow. Then thirdly, colostrum management is very critical. Total colostrum production has increased over the year as dam breed has bred for what the sow effect is. But colostrum per piglet has decreased because of the litter sizes that has been increasing. So colostrum intake within the first 12 to 24 hours determines the survival. It gives you a strong immune system in the piglets. Split suckling is essential and not optional at all. Remove your bigger piglets away from the sow or just put them in a creep area. You can see, for example, here they put them in a separate area. So you split suckle basically to make sure that all of your piglets gets milk. And then ensure every piglet gets access because large litters often exceed functional teats. And this is just a link to show you how it works. Then fourth is cross. I put this basically in two things into one. It's cross fostering, meaning if I have a sow that has 12 piglets and I have a sow that has 14, I will probably take the one away from the sow that has 14 and make it 13 piglets to equalize the litters. Or if I have a lot of piglets, let's say I have an average of 15 or 16 born alive, I might create a nursing sow to make another sow available so I can put less piglets per sow. Then, is everyone still with me and following? I think silence means yes. I'm going to continue then. So Dambreed focuses on maximizing the weaned piglets and not born piglets. That's what I said earlier. I can't say, yes, I have a born alive of 18, but I only wean 9 piglets. I should rather say I have a born alive of 16 and I wean 15 piglets. That is more productive in the long run as well. So when sows was moved to the farrowing unit, just before they farrow, the number of piglets per sow after equalization was determined because you know what the functional teats are per sow. So then you have a good idea of how many piglets you can put where. The remaining piglets should be moved to foster sows. First parity sows should have the same number of piglets as teat. This determines the future milk production. So if you have a gilt that is lactating, make sure that you put strong piglets and you put enough piglets on her to ensure that you have good stimulation for future milk production. And you want to have as many viable and healthy piglets at weaning as possible. So when you carry out the equalization, you do it after 12 to 24 hours when enough colostrum is consumed. You can do it up to 48 hours after farrowing. Each sow gets the number of piglets she's able to nurse according to the earlier assessment. And then I must say, we see with the Dambreed pigs that they are able to raise 1 to 2 piglets more than functional teats that they have. You move your bigger piglets away from your sows to the foster or the nursing sow. Foster sows should get the same number of piglets. And what I mean with this is if I take all my large piglets away from different sows and I make a foster sow, all of the piglets should be larger piglets. And then use second parity sows for the smaller piglets. As the teats are smaller, don't use the gilt because, as I said, future milk production is determined by the stimulation of the gilts at the first litter, and then make as many nursing sows as possible. So there's a few things to consider when you creating a nursing sow. Is she should have a high feed intake in the farrowing house, so she should eat good. If she doesn't eat good, it means she will milk from her body condition, so she will lose too much weight. She should have a calm temperament to accept the new piglet. She should have a good udder and she should be healthy. Then feed according to the sow's needs and limit the number of transport. Too many movement will equal stress and disease risk within your farrowing house. And then keep your system structured and predictable. I'm just taking a sip of water. So there's two different options. You have a one-step foster sow and a two-step foster sow. So our one-step foster sow is you take a sow that was weaned. So yeah, I said a sow that has 21 that farrowed minimum 21 days ago. You wean her, so let's call it the early wean, and then you take all of the extra piglets from the sows that just farrowed, and you put them on this intermediate sow to create a foster sow. And so, let's say this is your newly farrowed group, then this intermediate sow will move back into the farrowing houses with this group of killed or pigs to take up the extra larger piglets that's in excess. So, how a two-step foster sow works. Let's say um, I'm gonna do the picture and then I'm gonna come back to this. So basically, how a two-step foster sow work is you take an intermediate sow like we just discussed, you wean her, you early wean her at say anywhere from 21 days. Then you take a sow that has piglets that's 4 to 7 days old. You move them to the intermediate sow, and then the newly farrowed sows, you take piglets from them and put them to the two-step foster sow. So to explain it in such a way is to say a sow that just got weaned, the intermediate sow. Remember, she has a lot more milk, and she has been lactating for a longer time. That's why we will put the bigger piglets on her so that she can give them milk as well. And then these ones will go to a sow that hasn't been producing this much milk yet. So let's put it like this. So the 4 to 8 day old piglets are moved to the newly weaned sow, 21 days post farrowing. So this is the intermediate sow here on the right hand side. Then you reduce the feed allowance of the intermediate sow with about 2 kilograms per day. It depends on your nutritional specs of your diet. And then bigger piglets from the sow which just farrowed are moved to your two-step foster sow, meaning the sow that just farrowed, the piglets goes to the two-step foster sow. And then, like they say, make sure the piglets had colostrum. The foster sow should receive the same amount of piglets as was removed. So if you if you take 9 piglets away here, you will put 9 piglets with this intermediate sow again. And then, yeah, I think that is everyone with me on the, I think especially, let's say, the two-step foster sows. All right, and one important thing to take note of is to say, don't use a nearly if you don't use a nearly farrowed sow for piglets, instead place the piglets with a farrowing sow to ensure colostrum intake. So put your piglets, the smaller piglets, with this sow instead of with the two-step foster sow to ensure that if there's more colostrum, that your smaller piglets will be able to take this extra colostrum up. So feeding a lactating sow, these sows have a very high energy demand. So maximize your feed intake. How do we do it? We feed multiple times per day and we have fresh feed available. We use high energy, high amino acid diets. And everyone on the please don't try to save money with feed. I know it's the most expensive part, but it's also the part in your piggery that will cost you the most amount of money. Ensure that your sows has clean water. This is very important for milk production. And then poor feed intake will lead to poor milk production, which leads to starving piglets. How do we support the piglets? We provide creep feed as early as 10 days up to weaning. And what we should do is only use a milk replacer for very large litters. But keep in mind, a sow's milk will always be the cheapest and the best milk available. And that's why we suggest creating nursing sows to be able to do this. Then you do iron supplementation to prevent anemia. And then monitor your weakest piglets closely. Early intervention matters. Then a structured routine is very protocol driven. The same person should adjust the feed daily. It's all about consistency. If I go to the pens every day and I change the feed, then I will know, listen, yesterday morning the sow didn't finish her feed, so I changed it by this much or this much. But if I feed the sows today and Victor feeds them tomorrow, he won't know what I did with the feeding. So you might change it in the wrong direction. You only increase your feed if the sow finishes a ration. And then daily monitoring of the sow's appetite, piglet growth, and sow condition. So what I would say is if you have a farrowing pen where your piglets are with the sow, take a type of farrowing card. I will explain it a bit later that you put with your sow that's in the farrowing house. Then write on what's the born life, everything that, what was the weight of the piglets, what's the born life, what's the sow number, what's the functional teats. All of those data from the sow you write on there. And then what you do is at the back of the paper, you can put like a feed chart. So you can say, listen, I have to change the feed according to this feed curve over the 4 weeks that she's lactating. This is when I adjust the feed, how many kilograms she should get. And then you also put in what different times she should be fed. And then you can go and tick on that box. Listen, the sow ate at the 8 o'clock feeding, 11 o'clock feeding, 3 o'clock feeding, 4 o'clock feeding. Did she finish her feed or not? And based on that, that is how you can see whether something is wrong with the sow. If she hasn't eaten for a few feedings, she might be sick, something might be wrong. And that's a way to monitor the sows as well. So the system relies a lot on tight execution and not just good genetics. Remember, genetics is only part of the solution. Then post-farrowing. After your farrowing and litter equalization, feed intake and enough water. And then later the feed intake becomes important for your piglets as well. Inspect your crates to make sure that your piglets are moving around. If the piglets are lying on top of each other, it means, for example, that they are too cold. So you might need to add sawdust or grass or something or a heater to help heat your piglets up. Then split your rations into different feedings, and this is now specifically for your smaller piglets from 10 days old. Because if I just take 1 cup of feed and I throw it at day 10 into the bucket, the pigs there would be urine and manure in the feed and it won't be fresh and they won't eat it. So what I suggest is feed a little bit of feed at a time. Every time when you go and you add feed in a creep feeder for your little piglets, it keeps the feeding interesting and it also encourages the eating. Remember, if something happens in the pen, then the piglets will go and they will go and inspect and see what's going on. Clean your feeders before all the feedings. I would say if you can win around 28 days, sometimes it would be 26, 27 more or less. And then at weaning, it should be decided whether a sow should stay in the farrowing house for a foster sow, should she be culled, or will she be moved for the mating unit to be served again for the next litter. So the bottom line is, if you apply standard management to Dam-bred genetics, you'll still lose piglets. It won't get to a point where you will have zero losses. To really make Dam-bred work, you must prioritize the colostrum access of the piglets, feed aggressively and precisely according to the different stages of the sow, match the piglets to the teats. And like I said, there is sows that has the potential to raise more piglets than teats she has. Standardize your routines and monitoring. And you are not just managing sows, you are managing the competition between the piglets, feed intake, and early survival dynamics. The genetics assume high management intensity. Without it, mortality will rise very quickly. So to put it into perspective, the role of genetics is, like I said, if I have a litter size or the effect of a litter size. If I have 50 sows with improved genetics and I win 2 piglets per sow per year extra, it's 50 times 2 gives me 100 pigs more per year, and that would be a direct profit boost to the business. And like I mentioned, record keeping. Damrit is a software program called PigVision. And how PigVision works is you can enter anything from your newly bought gilts that you bought from a genetics company, your matings, your farrowings, your weanings, piglet mortalities, your number of weaners that you have, your feed that you bought. So everything that you need on your farm, you can enter this, and it's a cloud-based system. So this is very easy then to pull reports to see which is your worst sows in your herd, which is your best sows in your herd, when do you win, what sows do you win. So everything that you need, remember, everything that you write down in your piggery is um, information, is data. But if I don't convert that data into something specific, it will never become information. And if it doesn't become information, I can't do anything with the data. This is a very simple self-made example of a sow card that I've done before. So let's say, for example, here you can put in your sow number, then the date she was serviced. Yeah, you can also put the sow number, whichever way, because this is one sow card. The employee that mated her and what bull, what semen was used. Then then you can take this date plus 116, 117 days. You will get your expected farrowing day, and then you can put in your actual day that she farrowed, back fat, born alive, stillborn, mummified, the weight of the litter and the average weight of the piglet. So this is a calculation that will be done. And then the weaning. So what's the back fat of the sow? Now I can see, did she go in with the right back fat? Did she go out with the right back fat? If she did, it means she did eat well. And then what's the number of piglets that was weaned? And then what was the average weight of that piglets? So very simple KPIs to track weekly or per batch. I think per batch would even be good. Is your pre-winning mortalities. If you have high mortalities in day 2 and 3, it means you have poor equalization. It might be that the piglets is dying due to starvation. Other KPIs: piglets weaned per sow per year, the litter weight at weaning. This is has a correlation with the feed intake and the milk production of the sow. The feed intake at peak is kilograms per day, and a total feed intake of the sows. So if I ask you how many kilograms of feed does your sow eat in a farrowing house, it should be around 190 to 200 kilograms at 28 days of weaning. Low weaning weight is a feed intake problem. And then the percentage of piglets, say, below a 1.1 kilogram at birth is an indication of feeding incorrectly during your gestation period. So, how can farmers improve their economy? They can measure their performance. What you don't measure, you can't manage. You can benchmark yourself against other farmers that are performing well or that's not performing well. So, you might be the farmer that's performing well. Invest in efficiencies, not just expansion. If you have 50 sows, but you can't do it efficiently and you don't make money, don't think by going to 70 sows will improve your production. Rather go to 40 or 30 sows, feed them right, have the right genetics, have that extra person or management, and then you can slowly but surely improve your efficiency and then expand in your business. Choose quality genetics, quality feed, quality staff. There's nothing in a piggery that's more expensive than a poor manager. So always make sure that you have the right people in mind. Remember, if you're the owner of a piggery and you don't necessarily farm every day yourself, that person might not necessarily look after your business the same way that you look after it. And then work with nutritionists to optimize feed. Don't go and buy feed from someone along the street that just sucks what to do. Speak to the right people, speak to consulting nutritionists, and they will assist you in the best way possible. In conclusion, pig production is about the economy, efficiency, and excellence. Small improvements will have a big impact on your profits. And farmers can't control the pork price, but they can control their cost and their productivity. Meaning, if I have one extra piglet that I can wean per sow, whether I have 10 piglets or 12 piglets, for example, that I wean from a sow, the sow would have eaten the same amount of feed during the gestation period. So my cost per piglet becomes less because I have more piglets that I'm producing. So it means I'm more productive and I'm more efficient. With the right genetics, with the right feed, and the right management, pig farming can be very profitable. And then the Damrit Knowledge Hub this is our website. You will see, I think it's a bit small, but here in the middle, you will see there's a link that says knowledge. And if you go under knowledge, it will say our manuals. And under our manuals, you will find all of these manuals that's available for free. You just register with the email address, then you can log in either on your app, so on Samsung and Apple, so Play Store or Google Play. You can access these manuals or on the internet. This is very good guidelines to like sound guild performance and management, boar management, feeding. So there's quite a lot of information on there. And then this is just our contact information. And Victor, that's all from my side.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I've really learned a lot. I've sent some messages on the chat. Some questions that I have. First question is, what are your suggestions for milk replacers? Second, will synchronizing the guilds help so that we can have photo cells? And then lastly, litter equalization. I must have missed that part. So those are the three questions I have.
All right.
I don't know if we also have people. Yeah.
Okay, let me start with, first of all, milk replacers. It's very difficult to say. I can put you in contact with one or two people from South Africa that supplies milk replacers. But I'm not sure what you have available in your local market. Or let me put it like this: there's a guy called Stephen Payne. He works for a company, Urban Farmer. I will share his or his colleague's number with you, and they might be able to help you in that regard. And then the synchronizing guilds will definitely help. And the reason for that is if you have larger litters, you have more animals to move your piglets to. So it makes your litter equalization a lot easier and better. So I would say if you can either synchronize your guilds with each other or you can synchronize them with the sows. So if you have a smaller piggery, it might be beneficial to do a 3-week batch system, for example. And then litter equalization is basically to say, if I have 5 sows with an average of 15 piglets, and I have a sow that has 13 piglets, and I have a sow that has 16 piglets, I will take 1 piglet away from the 16 and put it with the sow that has 13. So then I have a sow that has 14 and 15 piglets. So then I don't have one sow that has 16, 17 piglets, and I have one that has 10 piglets, for example. So I just make the sizes of the litters equal between the sows.